Have you ever thought about being a little trash robot that just goes and lives his little life and watches a goofy little movie and is suddenly disturbed by a fancy looking robot that brings, or that's trying to find a plant? Me too. I want to be Wally. Hello, everybody. This is That Manga Dude, and welcome to another absolutely very fascinating, very interesting. I definitely believe this is going to be interesting. Not really. FBI. This is the first volume impressions. This is where I talk about the kind of like the new first volumes that are coming out, and I discuss them in more detail than I do in my typical reading logs. I go over the characters. I go over the visuals. I go over the story, and then I give you my full rating or kind of rating on read it or not read it kind of thing. Yeah, this one's going to be an exciting one. I have 4 volumes I'm going to be tackling today, and they are very different from one another, and it's going to be quite a busy one. Very interesting. Tackles a variety of stories, so this is going to be a good one. Let's get started right now. Let's go. Alright, so the first manga I'm going to be talking about today originally was released as a one-shot in 2000, that's kind of crazy to think about. But originally as a one-shot in 2000, but eventually released as a full series in May 1st of 2010 in Jump Square. Produced and created, aka story and art, by Tatsuya Endo. That is Blade of the Moon Princess. So let's talk about people who worked on this real quick. So translation, we have from Casey Lowe. Casey Lowe. Touch-up art and lettering from Phil Christie. Designed by Jimmy Pressler. And editor is Julia Walchuk. Yeah, so let's talk about this cover. This is an absolutely gorgeous cover, super beautiful. I love the font that they use for the title. It looks super great. I kind of like the bamboo, or kind of like, I don't know what this like pattern is, but this pattern's really neat. Has a really nice spine as well. Just overall, really well done cover. This is a really gorgeous release for sure. Important to note too, if you don't know who Tatsuya Endo is, really quick, that is the same mangaka behind the short series Tista, which just recently released and finished. It's only 2 volumes, and the absolute banger that everybody loves, Spy Family, that currently has 9 volumes out. It's going to be 10 soon, I think in October or maybe November. I don't know. It's coming soon. Anyways, really excited. This series is the newest one that is being released from Viz Media, like I mentioned, also known as Shump and Joe's imprint. So yeah, let's get started. Let's talk about the character that I'm going to be talking about. Is the cover character, aka the main character. This is Kaguya Takanoichi, I believe is how you pronounce it. Kind of like a rambunctious and just rebellious little princess. She's like coming of age at this point, and is gonna take over basically as like the new Queen of the Moon. Yeah, but she's like very like out there, very like always just kind of being like a tomboy kind of person, or just like very much like a little scamp just to piss people off for the heck of it. Very much like your typical teenager. Yeah, overall she's an interesting kind of fun character. She does frustrate me sometimes, but that's just because sometimes some of the things she does, like, it's just so annoying. But I mean, that's how she's supposed to be written, so that's fine. And it makes sense for her age as well. She's at like a transitional phase, and knowing what happens within the story, it totally makes sense as to why her character is like this. But overall, I think she's a cool character. Kind of interested and excited to see where she goes throughout the series. Now, let's talk about the story. So I already kind of tackled it, but basically Kaguya is the Princess of the Moon, and she is going to be soon taking over for her mother, which I can't remember her name, oopsie doopsies, but let's just say some crazy crap happens, which forces her, Kaguya, to get sent down to the prison planet that they keep mentioning. It's basically Earth, or it is Earth, I'm pretty sure, or at least most likely, but they don't call it Earth. So they just say it's a place of prisoners and blah, blah, blah. So she gets sent down there in order to, 1, train so that she could try to take back the throne, and 2, as an escape from the coup that's currently occurring in the moon. So yeah, overall, it's kind of a very simple story. It's supposed to be kind of like a retelling of the Princess Kaguya story, which is like she was born in a bamboo shoot or whatever. Which, if you've ever watched The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, it's basically a kind of sci-fi action version of that. Sorta. It is loosely based on it, I would say. But yeah, I like the plot. It's like pretty normal, I would say, pretty stock standard. But I think it tackles some pretty cool stuff pretty quickly. We get introduced to a few characters that are pretty awesome, and overall, just seems like it's gonna be a fun time. I don't think it's gonna be very long, and I don't need it to be very long either. So excited to see where it goes, and hopefully it finishes in a way that's like kind of interesting. Although I'm kind of already expecting, or I kind of already know what I expect it to end like, so let's just hope that either A, I'm right and they do it well, or B, it's not what I expect and it's as good also. Anyways, let's talk about the art. So I have been talking about this for a while, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I am a Tatsuya Endo art apologist, and that continues with this series. The art is very good in this one as well. The action is really cool. The designs are pretty interesting. I like the sci-fi kind of world that they went with on the moon specifically. Overall, a lot of the designs are really cool. The weapons are really cool. The villain characters' designs are also really cool as well. Just overall, it's a very, very good-looking manga. If you like your typical action stuff, if you like Tatsuya Endo, I would say definitely give this a shot. And if you like just like a normal kind of shonen, nothing super special, but like still a fun time, I would say give this a shot. It is a fun series, and I would say worth a read. Not necessarily worth a purchase, depending on who you are, but definitely worth a read just to check it out. And you'll probably find some enjoyment out of it. Okay, so our next one is probably one of the wackiest ones we're going to tackle today. But really quick, it was originally released in June 25th, 2020 in Kodansha's monthly afternoon magazine, and that is going to be this series, The Darwin Incident from Shun Umezawa. So, really quick, let's talk about some quick stuff. Translation from Kat Anderson. Editor is Daniel Joseph. Production from Grace Liu, Pan Yep, and Eva Grand, I believe is how you pronounce it, and proofreading from Kevin Luo. So let's talk about the cover and spine really quick. This cover is pretty cool. I like it a lot. It is not necessarily explaining exactly what's going on, but it does show our main character Charlie on the front. Spine, it's just normal, whatever, white spine with text, so it's fine. And the back cover is kind of cool. I like the use of the blue and yellow as like a popping out kind of color. But yeah, overall, not my favorite, but it is, I don't know, it kind of tells you exactly what you need to know. Now, let's tackle our character first. So we have Charlie on the front. Charlie is our main character. He is a human Z, aka he is a hybrid between a human and a chimpanzee. I will go more into it when we talk about the story, but yeah, he's really smart. He's also very strong, and I think he's just like kind of learning a lot about the world. Definitely has some pretty like significant opinions on stuff. And he's very, very in your face. Not necessarily in your face about it, but if you do like provoke him, he will, you know, kind of like strike back with words versus like violence. He'll only resort to violence if he needs to, basically. So overall, he seems to be a kind of interesting, complex character. I'm kind of curious as to how his character is going to evolve as we move throughout the series. But right now, I really enjoyed him in this first volume. I thought he was really cool. So going into the story, how the Human Z even came to exist. So basically, at the beginning of the series, an eco-terrorist group invades this laboratory and finds this pregnant chimpanzee. And lo and behold, they bring her to like another laboratory, which is more humane, and she gives birth to a Human Z, aka Charlie. A bunch of stuff happens, and he starts to live a semi-normal life. He goes to high school and is kind of makes a friend, and yeah, so it's about his connection to that eco-terrorist group and how this eco-terrorist group is trying to get a hold of him in order to push their very radical agenda. So overall, it's it is quite the story. I'm very interested to see where it goes. I kind of like the angle they're going with, especially with Charlie being kind of this amoral, not necessarily amoral character, but I guess he is an amoral character, but basically, yeah, he's neither leaning nor like on the like terrorist side, nor on like the other whatever you want to call it, the other radical side. So he's kind of like an interesting gray character in this, and that's why I'm like kind of interested to see where the story goes, just to see like where he decides to side with, who he decides to work with as we continue with this. But overall, I think the story is gonna be kind of cool, and I think it's an interesting premise to say the least, especially because the terrorist group does return. Obviously, they're gonna try and work with our Mr. Chimpanzee Man. So yeah, coming to the art. So the art is hit or miss for me. I think I think Charlie is designed pretty well, and I like some of the backgrounds and stuff like that, but I do think some of the characters are just not necessarily boring to look at, but they're not like the most interesting character designs. I mean, they're very realistic, but a lot of there's just a lot of like facial expressions that just seem kind of like boring or kind of like dead inside. Not necessarily the most interesting art in the world. There are some pretty cool, interesting like action scenes and stuff like that, and I think some of the character designs are decent, but there are also some ones where I'm just like, yeah, I'm not a big fan of that, to say the least. So overall, I think the Darwin Incident is worth checking out. I think it has an interesting enough premise that even if you're not a big fan of the art, I think you can still give it a shot and you might enjoy it. But I will say it's not necessarily for everyone, because I think some people could find that a lot of like the things that are tackled are very preachy and a little ham-fisted sometimes. But overall, it was a cool series. I'm kind of interested to see where it goes from here. Our next series is probably one of the more like anticipated releases of 2023, I would say, at least once they announced it back in, was that last year? Maybe it was last year. I don't know. It might have been actually early this year when they announced it, but it finally has been released. It originally had its preview chapter released December 2nd, 2020 in Grand Jump, and that is going to be the series DRCL Midnight Children from Shinichi Sakamoto, based on Bram Stoker's Dracula. So, let's talk about who has worked on this super fast, really quick. That is going to be translation from Caleb Cook, touch-up art and lettering from Brendan Hull, design from Cam Lai, and editor is Andrew Curé Bartosh. So let's talk about also the spine and the cover. This cover and spine, beautiful, gorgeous. It's got this creepy look to it. It looks like it's beat up, kind of like a lost journal in a way, or just like an old book. I really like the details on it. It just seems like it's been worn and torn, even though it's not. And obviously this cover is absolutely gorgeous. The black and red, always a really fun color combo. So really like it. I really, really like this. And obviously it's a hardcover, so that's always cool as well. Let's talk about our character really quick. I'm only going to be talking about one of them, and it's going to be, the girl on the right. That is Wilhelmina Mina Murray. It is quite the name. But yeah, she's just an overly smart girl, very curious, and also really strong, which is obviously seen as like a negative, because we're talking about like later or earlier in the, I think it's the 18th century, I believe, whenever Dracula is supposed to take place. But basically, it's when women were looked down upon as like, oh, they're just meant to be, like maids, or they're meant to be like mothers, and that's about it. Like, they weren't meant to be anything else. So she is like a really kind of like standout character where she's very strong, she's very smart, she's very opinionated, she will talk back at you if you're a jerk. So overall, she's like kind of a really cool character. I'm kind of curious as to where her character is gonna go, because it doesn't feel like there is a lot of room for growth. Maybe like some parts here and there, but I think overall she's still a likable character, so I'm not like mad if she's not a dynamic character. Sometimes static characters are cool, so I like her character as is, and maybe just like a couple little like improvements and changes as the series goes on would be cool. But overall, honestly, like even if that doesn't happen, I wouldn't mind at all. So let's talk about our story really quick. It's basically a retelling of Dracula. So it follows the story of Mina here and a variety of other students around her who go to this, like, I think it's an academy or a boarding school. It's one of the two. But she's getting picked on because, like I said, because she's a strong and smart woman, and the boys just are jerks, to say the least. And then meanwhile, something is going on this boat called the Demeter, which is where the book actually starts. And the Demeter lands on shore, and it's surrounded by a storm, but there's no storm around it. So, it's causing a lot of problems, and suddenly, lo and behold, an evil being appears. I won't say exactly what, but it should be pretty obvious because it's based off of Dracula, but basically, yes, it's Dracula. So I had to actually look it up because I've actually never read the original Dracula, but it seems like a couple of the things are parallel or congruent, whatever you want to call it, as the original series. So that's cool. I learned a lot about the Demeter for no reason, and I'm kind of happy about it, but I like the way that the story is told, because it's told in kind of a way like you're not supposed to trust who is telling the story in a way. Like, it starts off pretty fast, pretty quickly. where is it? Like the first page. Yeah, the records have already been tampered with. So, which makes it seem like we're going to have an unreliable narrator, and I'm kind of curious if that's going to play a part in the story as we move on. But I do really like this. I like the way the story is told. It's told very fast, and it works really well with the art, which, speaking about the art, oh my goodness, the art is so gorgeous. It is beautiful. It's wonderful. There's a lot of really great moments. Fantastic, like, designs, really great surreal moments overall. Just really great pages. We get a lot of double spreads. The compositions are really nice. The characters are done really well. This is probably the most gorgeous manga that I've read this I would argue around this year. There are a couple maybe that like fight for that title, so this might win Best Art. We don't know. We still got a couple months to go. But yeah, Dracula Midnight Children. This is a really good one if you're looking for like kind of like a horror drama series. It looks like it's going to be a great time. If you like Dracula, 100% pick this up. If you're looking just for some gorgeous manga, definitely give this a shot as well. There are some creepy moments, I'll give you that. So if you're easily startled or scared by like some creepy imagery, yeah, take this with a grain of salt. Maybe look up what's going to happen just to give yourself like an idea of what you could be expecting. But yeah, Dracula Midnight Children is really, really good. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait for the second volume. Alright, going into the last volume, this was one of my highly anticipated series, especially after the fantastic series that I read by the same artist, author, last year. This one is from our good old-fashioned friends at Yen Press. I forgot to mention the other publishers, but whatever. I guess I'll mention that during the ending part. Anyways, this was originally published in July 12th, 2021 on Comic Beam or in Comic Beam. This is the fantastic series story and art from Shima Shinya. This is Glitch. Anyways, let's talk about who worked on this really quick. We have translation from Eleanor Summers, lettering from Abigail Blackman, edited by Abigail Blackman, Carl Lai, and Ju-Yun Lee, and designer is Wendy Chan. So, talk about the cover, let's talk about the spine. I love Shima Shinya's cover designs. They're always super gorgeous. I really love the colors that they use. I love the spine. The spine is super cool, like with the red and like the is this teal? I don't know, whatever this color is. Maybe you could tell me in the comments below what color that's supposed to be. But yeah, it's a really nice like blue-green color. Overall, it's just a really gorgeous cover and spine. I love this stuff. Obviously, the spine kind of comes over as well, so we get like a nice cover, front, back, cover, spine, all like flows together. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. We're not even talking about the series yet. I gotta slow down. Wait, okay. So, we have two characters to talk about. Actually, yeah, it's the only one I have two characters to talk about because I would say they share the most amount of screen time together, and they are siblings. So, first of all, we have Minato Lee, who is the taller one here. They're like directionally challenged, but they seem to be pretty smart and really caring about their sibling. So overall, just like kind of like a motherly figure in a way, or parental figure, excuse me. Overall, they're a great character. I can't wait to see what they do in this series, but they have a lot of really funny quirks about them, and just overall, just really enjoyable to read, I guess, is the best way to put it. And their sibling, Akira, very curious, loves exploring, and is much better with direction as well. She makes friends, of course, very fast, and kind of creates like the current club, or whatever you want to call it, that goes around the city that we're going to talk about in the story. But yeah, overall, they're a great duo. I actually really like them, and there's a lot of questions that are posed, which I'm going to talk about in the story as well, that they have to deal with, and that the reader also has to deal with and try to answer. Hopefully it gets answered within the series. We'll see. I'm getting out of myself. Let's talk about the story real quick. So basically, the Lee family is moving into this new town they've never been to before, and very quickly something is very off. They are starting to see things. They're starting to see like these glitching looking things, and like some things just seem out of place, and overall everything just seems a little bit odd. They start to talk with the city folk or the town folk, and the town folk are like, yeah, this is pretty normal, you just kind of have to deal with it, kind of thing. So yeah, it's about them trying to live in this new town, trying to acclimate in this new town, while also trying to see what the heck is going on. And yeah, overall, the plot is pretty cool. I'm really interested in what this bizarre town has for these people to discover, and I'm kind of curious as to like what's gonna I guess like where the story is gonna go going forward. I know it's only 4 volumes, so I'm wondering if we're gonna get something big. There was something, a big plot, or not a big plot twist, but something big is happening at the end of this volume. So I wonder how that is going to affect the rest of the story as well as these characters. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about this, but that's because it's, I don't know, I've been really enjoying Shima Shinyo's work. I really loved Lost Lad London. It's one of my favorite series from last year. And this one is shaping up to be probably the same. So let me talk about the art real quick. I've mentioned this before, but Shima Shinyo's art style is very, very unique. It's very different. It's very fluid. Has a nice flow to it. A really good use of like positive and negative space. The compositions are all really gorgeous. Overall, just a really beautiful art style. It is very different. It's very unique. I will say there are going to be people who do not care for it and do not like it, and that's okay. But I think for me, this hits me like right where right in that weird spot where I'm like, this is so interesting, different, and it's like making me think more than usual, and I really appreciate the art. It's very fluid, it's very fun, and as an artist myself, gotta appreciate that kind of stuff all the time. So overall, I think Glitch is a must buy. Obviously, I have a massive bias, and that is okay. It's okay to have biases. So I don't know, give it a shot. See what you think about it. I think it's like a kind of interesting slice of life mystery series that's shaping up to be pretty fun and pretty interesting. So yeah, definitely give it a shot if you can find it. You know, give it a read, check it out, see how you feel about it, and let me know how you feel about it, because I'd be interested to see who else is reading Shima Shinya work. Alright, so to rate the 4 series here, we have 4 of them. It's kind of hard to fit them all on screen because some of them are kind of big. But in terms of my least favorite, I don't know if you could have guessed it, but actually Blade of the Moon Princess is going to be my least favorite, followed up by Darwin Incident, DRCL, and Glitch. So, reason why Blade of the Moon Princess is on the bottom, I already kind of mentioned it, and I kind of hinted at it. It is very much a stock standard shonen series. Nothing super crazy, and nothing that blew me out of the water. It was still a lot of fun, and the art is great. But yeah, definitely not like my favorite out of the 4. Darwin Incident, I think, is number 3, because I think it has a good premise that kind of overtakes the not my favorite kind of art. So yeah, really interested with this one. DRCL, honestly, is only below Glitch because my bias is kicking in real hard right now. But DRCL is fantastic, and it's very, 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 very close second. I mean, like, it's like points, like little small points. But yeah, Glitch is my favorite out of these 4. So, what did you read, or what have you read this past September of 2023? Did you read anything super interesting? Have you read any of these 4 series, and how do you feel about them? Let me know in the comments below. I always appreciate when people actually give me their opinions on stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I know my comments can tend to be pretty short. They're just like, oh, thanks, but I do read them all, not gonna lie. So yeah, thank you for all your support, and you know what to do. You can like, you can comment, you can subscribe. Those are all amazing things. I really appreciate it when you do any of those things. And if you didn't, thanks for watching for as long as you have. I really appreciate it. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this FVI. I will see you in the next video. Bye.